Well, it looks like it is now confirmed. PlayStation has just announced that they have acquired Housemarque for an undisclosed amount of money. We have no idea what the amount is right now, but developer Housemarque, well known for games like Super Stardust HD, Resogun, Dead Nation, and of course, most recently, Returnal. And it looks like they may have also acquired Bluepoint. This is not confirmed, however, it seems very clear that they probably did, and it's not official just yet. So first up, let's talk about the Housemarque acquisition. This was announced during a string of tweets, but also on the PlayStation blog where we got a more thorough write-up on what this means for both Sony and Housemarque, which is kind of self-explanatory, of course, but over on the PlayStation blog, the co-founder and managing director of Housemarque says, and I quote here, "We are so excited to finally join the PlayStation Studios family. This gives our studio a clear future and a stable opportunity to continue delivering on gameplay-centric approaches while still experimenting with new methods of narrative delivery and pushing the boundaries of this modern art form. Locally here in Helsinki, this also means that we will officially expand the PlayStation family to a growing industry hub and secure the legacy of the oldest game studio in Finland." Now, over on Famitsu.com, they had an interview with Herman Hulst, the head of PlayStation Studios, but also the co-founder and managing director for Housemarque, and we got, again, more insight into what the deal really means and what we could see potentially in the future. But we have another quote here, this one from Herman Hulst, where he says, "Housemarque is a very exciting studio that fits what we want for a number of reasons. Sure, it's a small category compared to other PlayStation studios, but it's not a problem in itself. I like the fact that it brings diversity in terms of geography, team size, and genre." Now, for Housemarque, just to kind of outline some of the things that is really beneficial for them, of course, is that they can grow the team steadily, and that's how they want to approach it. So they don't want to make the team suddenly large or expand it to a point where they can't really handle that. It will be slow and organic growth, which is, kind of a phrase that we've heard here a few times now. But really, one of the other big takeaways here is that for Housemarque, they now have full access to the resources at PlayStation Studios, which is something that they probably saw a good portion of throughout the development of Returnal. We know that for these second-party external development games, they do get the same resources and help throughout their development like a first-party team would, but now they are officially first-party, and so they'll have full access to those resources, and they'll have that going into their next project as well. The acquisition talks started as early as 2020, or early 2020 rather, but they cooled down until Housemarque could focus on releasing Returnal. Those conversations then started up very recently, so apparently a few months ago, and well, of course now it's decided. And for the next project, of course, we're not going to have a really good idea of what this will look like because they just shipped Returnal, but as we mentioned in the first quote, it's going to be something where it could potentially go beyond Returnal. They're going to continue focusing on tight and responsive gameplay, but also looking into and exploring narrative storytelling, which is very new for them when it came to Returnal, but they did it quite well for what was a first-time attempt, and so I'm excited to see where they go from this point forward. That's really all the official details that we have. Again, we don't have a price on what Sony paid for them, but I'm sure that will get disclosed at some point. I am elated with this news. I think this is a great fit. I mean, I loved Returnal, right? I was so psyched for that project because I've always been a huge fan of Housemarque's games. They did arcade stuff for a long time, and then they kind of had to walk away from that and say, we need to try new things. We need to try, these other multiplayer focused. They had a battle royale project that they were working on, right? It was not looking optimistic for Housemarque, or at least not from a fan's point of view where you've been keeping up with their portfolio during that entire time, right? And so to see Returnal and for Sony to back Returnal, I'm happy with how the whole situation played out. And this game really fits. Well, this game and this studio in particular really follows the formula that we've been talking about for a long time when it comes to potential acquisitions from Sony, because with all the acquisition talk that's been going around lately, which has mostly been stirred by Microsoft, right? Because they've been doing so much of that, where they've been money hatting all these studios because they can do that, right? They have that kind of cash. But with Sony, they are slower and more methodical, and when they do acquisitions, it's usually with a long-standing partner or a team that they really believe in from the very onset, like say Media Molecule back in 2009, 10, whenever that acquisition was, but they were a fairly new team that was built up doing Little Big Planet, right? So whether it's a brand new team and an idea that they're backing from the very onset, or a long-standing partner, that's typically what we see from PlayStation. And so Housemarque fit that bill throughout the entire throughout that entire collaboration process of these smaller games, launching, games on Sony's brand new hardware like Resogun and now Returnal. And I'm just so happy to see that they kind of walked away from that low point, and now they get to do bigger and better projects like Returnal, right? I am just so psyched. I think this is fantastic news. But now let's move on to this Bluepoint situation, because it looks like this might have slipped out early. So what ended up happening is all the territory-based PlayStation Twitter accounts were sending out this tweet about, the acquisition of Housemarque. And for the Japanese Twitter account, it looks like the actual text was for Housemarque and Returnal and whatnot, but the image that they used was Bluepoint Games saying "Welcome to the family." Now, this is not a mistake this isn't something where you can look at it and go, oh, well, it's a mistake, right? I mean, I think this is very deliberate. So you look at the image and you can even see that there's an extra sliver in there for the Demon's Souls remake, and the picture prior to that would have been the lineup of PlayStation Studios, where you have Celine from Returnal, and next to that is now Demon's Souls with Bluepoint Games. So I think this is also probably happening as I'm filming this right now. It's not confirmed. So I don't know if they're just saving it for a different date or later in the day or whatever, or maybe the deal's not quite done just yet. This is why we don't really ever see rumors for acquisitions, even from the Microsoft side of things. Sometimes it still happens there, or lately it's been leaking out there, but a lot of Microsoft stuff has been leaking out. But just that with acquisition stuff, usually this stuff comes out of nowhere because it's so close to when the conversations start and when they're finished, right? So that might be what's happening here, but I mean, this is it's a very deliberate image. I would be shocked if this didn't pan out, or if we don't find out about it relatively soon. And with Bluepoint, it's the same deal here, right? This is a long-standing partner that Sony has been very close with for years and now generations at this point. Bluepoint only has one or two stint projects outside of PlayStation where they shipped on other platforms. I think they handled other contract work for Titanfall, the Xbox 360 version, and something else. I think it was Metal Gear Solid. Can't remember off the top of my head, but same deal for Bluepoint, right? They fit that basic mythology, or that basic approach of how Sony acquires studios, and Sony doesn't really acquire studios that often. They don't, right? Amidst all this acquisition talk, it's really been stirred by Microsoft because they've been, picking up a bunch of studios lately, but Sony doesn't really do that, and they haven't really done that. And when they do it, it's a long-standing partner. And so if you've been following Let's Talk PlayStation for a while on this channel, it's always been pretty obvious when we bring it up. It's like, okay, what studio should Sony acquire? Well, here's how they approach it, and here's who would make sense. And who makes sense? Bluepoint and Housemarque. Every single time, those are two teams that came up pretty frequently. The last official acquisition before this was Insomniac Games, and that was 2019. But prior to 2019, that's a pretty, that's one of the most well-known relationships in the gaming business. And when that happened, it just seemed so natural. It seemed like a perfect fit. And so, I guess if we want to theorize more, before we always said Bluepoint and Housemarque, it was, for a while the running theme there was Quantic Dream, but nowadays, just FYI, Quantic's definitely moved on to their own thing. It seems like Sony wanted to, walk away from them after, a lot of those accusations came out about, what goes on in that studio. And then also Quantic Dream, they wanted to, it seems like they might not have even wanted to be acquired because they want to, now they're going into publishing. And I think they've been publishing, actually. So they're kind of really branching out now. They want to go multi-platform and all that stuff. Supermassive, I think, was also one that we talked about for a bit after they shipped Until Dawn. But again, they want to go multi-platform. We have to keep in mind some teams don't actually want to be acquired, right? The numbers have to work, the conversations have to play out in a mutually beneficial way. But for Housemarque in particular, I'm glad that this happened for them, because that means they have financial backing and security. And because they do some of these types of games that you wouldn't expect to be multi-million sellers, that's not what Returnal is, right? That's absolutely not what Returnal is, especially because it's this larger budget roguelite with a narrative, and it's quite difficult on a brand new platform like PlayStation 5. And Bluepoint, I think, is self-explanatory. Whether they finally get to do their own new IP, or they keep doing remasters and remakes. I mean, that's fine as long as they're happy and they can, again, they have the financial backing of Sony. And to see these studios have organic growth over time to possibly release projects on a more regular basis, that's what excites me about these long-standing partners joining PlayStation Studios in particular. Once they have access to all those resources and they can grow at a pace that works comfortably for them, this is great. I mean, these teams needed to join, and I'm glad to see it finally happen for them. But we'll still wait for Bluepoint. We'll talk about that when the news officially comes up. Anyway, thank you for joining me in this impromptu conversation, breaking news type video. We'll always do one of these when the occasion arises, and it seemed like that was appropriate for today. I'll see you on Friday for Let's Talk PlayStation, and I think we'll move what was this scheduled Tuesday video for probably on the weekend or something else, right? I'll probably just do 2 uploads in the coming week or something. I'm not sure, but until then, if you haven't yet, subscribe for the best PlayStation news, reviews, and updates that are here on YouTube. You can follow on Twitter at Mystic Ryan, and that is it. I will see you all in my next video. You take it easy.